Dale is founder of POSY London, the plastic-free natural deodorant brand on a mission to banish BO and single-use plastic, one market at a time. Fed with greenwashing and products that promise natural but delivered net results, Dale rolled up her sleeves and tested a lot of deodorant to create something better, planning to find skin loving and actively effective. POSY was born that smelling amazing doesn't have to cost the earth. She's here to share behind the scenes of building a business as bold as its kind, to pits and the planet. So over to you, Dale, and we'll start sharing your presentation.
Yes, Dale Campbell, founder of POSY London. I never thought I'd grow up to be a deodorant salesperson, but here I am. So I'm one of those people that always kind of lives to with deodorant and sneak off 2 or 3 times a day to really find my deodorants. And when going on Monday, I could never trust that it would be okay, and I owned cash in a suitcase. So 2 things happened in my life. I started reacting to products, and I didn't have deodorants that would keep me fresh for 24 hours a day. So I started looking at all the ingredients and stuff, and realized that I needed to use more natural than organic. Yeah, so there was me more than that suitcase problems of unpacking everything. And the second thing that started my natural deodorant journey was that I came across that. And it really stopped me in my tracks, and it was heartbreaking. And I just thought we could actually do better for ourselves and for the planet and for wildlife. So being a sweaty mess, having ingredients instead of like science experiments, I picked up a mixing bowl, and I started to try and make my own deodorants. It took me a year to formulate something that didn't give you a rash, that actually worked and that you could trust. And then I thought, I wonder if it works on other people. So I put it on my friends and family, and they were happy with it. I'm actually a really busy trade marketer, so I really didn't want to start another job. But the way the deodorant made me feel, I was like, I'm going to have to do this. I think, luckily for me, I'm used to filling in forms and complying with regulations. So I was able to get my products certified, and I actually did a course on shampoo and conditioner. And then I went to market, and I started out with the deodorants and tins. And the feedback that I got was that people did not like rubbing anything under their arms. So I had to look for a new container, and I didn't want to be the cause of another plastic product that was going onto the planet. So I settled on cardboard tubes. It took a lot of thinking about it, but I didn't want something that you could refill and would break. People would just throw it away, or you didn't like the colour and you just throw it away. So with the cardboard tube, at least it's biodegradable, and you won't find a POSY tube on the beach in 50 years' time. I thought about natural and organic ingredients, because organic farming is good for the land, and I also had to choose ingredients that were in abundance, because some of the oils, plants that you use for essential oils, are actually becoming extinct, and I didn't want to do that. And also, some of the plant-based waxes actually harm the humans that are harvesting them, because they get acid burns. So I've spent a lot of time thinking and reading, and then my husband, I had to see how deodorant would work on a man, so I had to nag him to death to try it. So eventually he did, and then he went back to using his own spray on deodorants, and I thought, I can't nag him anymore, I'm just going to have to accept it. And he's an electrician, and then the one summer he was working in a really hot loft, and he came home and he said, will you make me a POSY deodorant? I was like, yes. So that was that. So each person could use a container of deodorant a month. That means you're putting 12 containers a year into landfill. With POSY deodorant, the tube lasts for 4 months. So you're saving 12 containers from going into landfill. Yeah, so that was me, my marketing and trying out and speaking. It's actually fascinating when you go to markets and you speak to people and get all the feedback. So those are the cardboard tubes. that you won't find on a beach in 50 years' time because at least they'll biodegrade. So I just wanted to come with a message of hope, really, because each person who takes one single, we've had removing plastics from supermarkets and that, but if we think about the bathroom, if a person removes one plastic container, it'll make a difference. If 2 of us do it, if 4 of us do it, if 100,000 of us do it, we're definitely going to make a difference to our environment and planet. And yeah, basically that's my dream, not to see plastic landfill, it's just be nice. Yeah, so as part of my journey, I've joined Eco Friends UK. We are helping to have plastic-free status and platinum new green. I'm also working with Surfers Against Sewage and again my gold accreditation as a plastic-free business. And yeah, I just want to say thank you to Greg for today, and also thank you to everybody for supporting any business that is a plastic-free business.
There's no slides.
Yeah, I think there's a picture of me and that too.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. Hello, my name is Rina. I am very pleased to be invited today to speak on POSY. I am here representing SESI Retail. I'm a co-director and founder of SESI. SESI stands for Full Ethical Supplies Initiative. That's because since it was, I often say that since it was set up, but in fact, since it's a grassroots thing, a socially incubated campaign to help people refill ethical products in their own containers. And we were born from the shell of our kids' local primary school. From 2006 until about 2017, SESI was very informally working with very different parts of the city. Although we started when it was small, there was an appetite and a food revolution emerging of the shine, much connected as much of the issues we try to tackle are intersectional with, they were connected with waste and money, and yet food poverty as another. And you can see how that is crazy when you see figures of 30 billion tons of food thrown out a year, and then you have food banks. And look at that contrast with, I'll give you just a figure that I was told then anyway, that was recent. I think it was last year, I was looking at a figure of 38,000 children in Oxfordshire who went hungry. So, when you look at that inequality and the social impact that has in our communities, it's not at all disconnected also from the climate crisis and the environmental issues that we can, within our own reach, do something about, and those which we cannot, simply because different sectors of society have a say. And one of the roles that we took, well, it wasn't very glamorous. It was fulfilling. And it was at the time where people believed that we were recycling. But doing a good deal of research, just like Kids Against Plastic had done, we could see that that wasn't happening. And we talked to scientists and business also people, about it. And we decided that we could do something about it from our local school. Initially, what we were doing is a bias group, and I was training children to run a talk show. But very quickly, other schools heard about it, and then every time a school came and asked, "Could you do this with us?" and so on, we said yes. Then came the campaign for real farming, and local farmers needed a space, physical space to sell their unwrapped tomatoes and, unpackaged vegetables and fruit and so on. So they approached Tessie to see if we would be one of the people supporting the campaign. Well, the setup, farmers markets, north, south, east, and west of the city, we kept saying yes to everything we were invited to. And so before we knew it, we had people coming, I don't know, from quite far out, possibly. I can give you examples: Gloucestershire, London, Berkshire, all the counties around Gloucestershire were coming once a month to refill lots of things from the SESI at the farmers market. And all this time, SESI is growing, and we are training secondary school students to run those stalls, plus others were willing to volunteer and run those stalls as well, because we're talking about Saturday and Sunday. And my job was to run a little shop, again, not for profit, from our local church in Valley also. So all that time that I was involved in that, it enabled us in SESI to research in depth various aspects on which we now work with. So you look at plastic, and I was talking earlier with Will from Greenpeace, because SESI and Greenpeace were, well, not Greenpeace, I'm sorry, Will, who is now in Greenpeace, we were neighbors. We're both running from the same church. But what's interesting about approaching issues like plastic is that intersectionality thing. When you start talking to farmers or any other local business, and you can see how the price of renting, the renting is very high, businesses come very survive. You need to come together. You need to find a way for those local businesses that existed, the ones that are to exist, find a safe space from where we can then talk to people about production, accountability, transparency, impact, all of those things. So if you are not in touch with the land, you're not in touch with the people who produce things that are used in our detergents, in our cosmetics, in our food and everything. How can we love what we don't understand? So an important aspect of our campaign is to take a step back in terms of the preaching, and much more in terms of celebrating what we got. If you got one grain of sand, celebrate that. But the important thing, anyway, is that SESI has been flourishing because of that grassroots movement in Oxford. In some way, a lot of us are managing to be part of this thing bigger than ourselves because we were there in the right place at the right time. I do not believe that there were not other people already trying to do what I was doing. But it's that moment when you are able to communicate with other people like-minded. But what the big challenge becomes for us then was to bring that message outside of that echo chamber. And that's what I think all of us here trying to normalize, to mainstream our services and campaigns, find it really difficult. But one of the things that we say at SESI, in how we, and it's one of the slogans, is that change shackles. And this is one of the reasons why we're not much into corporations. We've been approached by supermarkets to work with, and we have, in a couple of occasions declined, and in another occasion we put forward a proposal that was rejected because that proposal would have protected our stockists across the UK. And that's not what supermarkets want. Supermarkets protect profit at all costs because they respond to shareholders. So here is a question for everyone. I know that it's very popular to ask these questions here, but a question for people to go home and think about. And I always try and ask this question. One is, how do we define success in business? And the other is, are we able to grow horizontally rather than vertically? Are we able to resist as we succeed? Those invitations from big corporations, because one thing I am very sure of in our experience, our work assessing, is that if we grow vertically, then we are doing exactly the opposite of what this planet is. We cannot do that. Because the resources are not here forever. We can't carry on commoditizing everything. So one of the things that we are focusing on exactly, currently SESI works with 300 stockists. They are farmers markets, buyer groups, universities as well, who run refill stations within their campus. Expert is one of them, and we got various colleges in Oxford who do the same. We also work with farm shops, garden centers, refill shops in your local high street, anything like that. SESI is a workers' company. It's not a problem. So you can library punch, but you can join as a full-time worker after a year working in SESI. You can join the company. So SESI, one of the most impactful things that we do is connect people, not necessarily with the campaign to plastic, but plastic in the context of everything else. So I often will start talking, not just me, but us and Ceci, we'll talk to customers about anything. They pick up the phone, call us about something to do with plastic, and we end up talking about what's in our washing up, the ingredients, or where the products come from. One of the things that is very important, and I think we need to be aware of, there are companies which have their heart in the right place, but the product, no product out there, none, is perfect. And it's extremely frustrating because you can have it almost perfect, but it's not perfect. And when you break it down, even from brands that are expensive and have all the awards, then you realize that it all comes down to how we look at land, agriculture, and how we ignore where things come from. And I'll give you an example, and I always resort to that example. So many people relate to is palm. A lot of products will say palm free on the label, but you do not know what is the substitute of palm. But I can tell you right now that it's coconut. So what the industries and businesses are not willing to tell us is that the substitute is worse than palm, but in another way, because a lot of the coconuts that is become large monocultures in areas which would have been mangroves. Those mangroves have disappeared because of those monocultures. Mangroves are not easy to regenerate, but if you say chop off as if it was done, the forest in Indonesia, in 15 years, you leave it alone, it will come back. Life will come back in that forest, it will restore itself. But mangroves, they are such complex ecosystems. They host undercurrent, salt, and fresh water with some still undiscovered microorganisms and small species that live there that perhaps we haven't even classified. Once you lose them, they're gone forever. So we cannot be destroying mangroves around the world just to greenwash our products. So it's important, I think, to emphasize why we're not perfect as opposed to tell you perfection, because I think that's something that in business is so taken for granted. Or there's all sorts of lines that you will hear, things like, for example, the detergent sheets. They are made in the UK, but very few people will know that those ingredients were probably made 70% of it in China, and that if you add just a fragrance or process the perforation of the ship, you can call it made in Britain. And there's all sorts of things, and we do a lot of investigation and research in that. We work with Oxford British University as well, try and understand how the indigenous communities in places like Bali get around lobbying and working with the government so that they can keep the land, so that they can grow things for their own communities. And all of those things are happening all over the world. Now, the issue with palm that I mentioned before is that although I agree wholeheartedly with the campaign, and I was part of the campaign for 3 decades, we need to look at how we campaign, because yes, it was okay to almost overnight ban palm, even if that meant that thousands of people in Indonesia were left even poorer, because there was no alternative economy that could catch these people to make a living. We have no idea what we did to those people. So we don't need to, but it does happen. But it's one of those casualties that we might say, because if you don't push and push, nothing is going to happen. I get that. But for businesses, I think it's important to look at that sort of thing, because we think we've done the right thing. And yet, none of the campaign were able to grasp the damage to people and farmers in other continents, like in Latin America or Africa, where growing palm sustainably. They suffer too, even though they've done nothing wrong. So it's very important, and you said that before, against plastic, it's very important to maintain an investigative mind, and always, whatever business you support, whether it's SESI or any other brand, that you make sure that you ask the right questions. And if anybody is selling you perfection, they're not true. Thank you.
Thanks, Rina. And I'm just going to hand over now to Emma from Surf Against Sewage, who will talk about the Plastic Free Community Champion Business Award. So over to you, Emma.
Hello, thanks, Greg. My name's Emma. I am the Communities Officer for Surf Against Sewage. I've been there for about 3 years, and I help manage the Plastic Free Communities campaign within that, which has been going since 2017, and there'll be a presentation later to go through a little bit more about what that campaign is. But one major part of it is engaging businesses as part of a wider network of community working to reduce single-use plastics where they live. And we work with around 6,000 nearly. I think this morning it was like 5,798 or something. So nearly 6,000 businesses that have signed up to our awards. And as part of that award scheme, they're led by their community leader who works with their community if they have one, and if they don't, then they're connected with us as a point of guidance. And then they're taken through this leveled award scheme where they can gradually work to reduce single-use plastics as in their own time and in a way that suits their business. And we primarily work with local, small to medium independent businesses. So we don't work with larger chains or franchises within our communities, and there's a few good reasons for that. Mainly because we believe that local businesses are the drivers of the plastic free movement. We know that local businesses are super important. We want to promote that and use our communities to encourage people to shop local and to use independent businesses. But also independent businesses are much less likely to engage in large-scale greenwashing. So it's really important for us to form those partnerships with local independent businesses within our communities. And stats around reduction that has happened with around 6,000 businesses signed up is I'm reluctant to use that because we know that it's so much more, and from a data point of view, it's really hard to prove the impact that our businesses have on paper. But the last impact report we did from 2021 did say that our businesses every year reducing 39 million single-use items from the market, which is phenomenal. But I know by looking at other data and having a delve that we know this could be a lot more bigger. So you really can't underestimate how things are scalable and how one business making a difference, scaling that by 6,000, really has a massive impact on the market and demand for plastic-free alternatives. So yeah, local independent businesses really have the power. They have the power to create change in their communities. So the award levels are pretty simple, really. We have the champion, which is the initial award, where they have to reduce 3 single-use plastics from their business. But we can also accept items they've already reduced. So if you've set your business up as a refill business, already pretty much plastic free, or you've done some good work already, or have never used them, then we can retrofit and really celebrate the good work businesses have already done, as well as encouraging new businesses that might be starting that plastic-free journey for the first time to celebrate that work as well. So the award works both ways. And through our guidance and our community leaders that are on the ground talking to businesses, we can take them through that level of steps gradually. And primarily we have a list of top offenders. So those top offenders, single-use plastics, the ones we find in our beaches the most often, the ones that are produced in the highest numbers. So that's things like disposable coffee cups, plastic bottles, carrier bags that are in their van now, but there are some exemptions which still exist. Plastic cutlery, again, some bans, but still exemptions that would see being used. Plastic cups, bathroom products, shampoo products, all of those we class as top offenders, and those are the products that we focus on. But actually, with the award, any reduction in any single-use plastic item is counted and celebrated as well. And we don't just encourage any plastic-free alternative, we do encourage refill reuse as the beacon of swaps out there. And we also, as part of the award, is bring businesses into their community by connecting them with our community leads, by connecting them with events and things going on in their community, by getting them involved in cleans and other things so the business can start to have a wider impact outside of their business in their community. And we've seen so many amazing stories of our businesses, like Dale here and Keith at the back from our Precious Air, connecting with their community leads, attending beach cleans, even getting involved in campaigns and protests and marches and using their business as a force for change, which is absolutely fantastic to see. And we see those case studies coming through already. And yeah, I'm so proud of all the work that we see going through from our plastic-free champions. They really are the champions of the plastic-free movement. But as well as getting involved in their community, Steps Against Sewage run lots of national plastic pollution campaigns. So it's a way of businesses to get involved on a national level and scale their impact past their community to a national stage, so that we can, push for more progressive policy and legislative change. And businesses have opportunities to get involved with and are encouraged to do so on SES plastic pollution campaigns, especially when they get to the Gold Award. So pretty much when we get to the Gold Award, which is the end, we say the end step, it's not quite the end, because we do have a bonus level. I don't think we have anyone on that yet, so if anyone wants to have a go who's gold already, please don't go in and do bonuses. So when you get to the gold level, we do expect businesses to pretty much be working plastic free and to not be using any of top offenders that we identify. So that is the beacon, and our aim is for all of the 6,000 businesses that we have on the system to eventually go through those levels and achieve gold. And the scheme is free. The support and guidance from the plastic communities team is free, and you get a whole suite of resources and things online. So all you do is just sign up online. So if anyone, I guess this bit and ask, if any of you guys own a small independent business or know any, do spread the word, you can sign up. I really appreciate it. Okay.
Thank you so much. We're going to have about 5 try and have around 5 or so minutes for questions. So, does anyone who have any questions for any of the three people here in the room?
We're living in extraordinary times, and in the UK we've got about 20 million people in food and on fuel poverty. Just that food bank are supporting a range of supplying 70,000 meals to households living in 2 mile radius. So when we're looking to develop new products, alternative products, how do we make them affordable to those on the lowest income? I'm interested to hear about the deodorant that you produced, and congratulations on the award that you've done there. So you're also learning about deodorant science as well, and cosmetic science, and that's learning. So how affordable are they to those that may run, for instance, university project?
Yeah, so, I mean, it's, the price of my drink is different. Which, if you don't have a lot of money in your bank accounts, it's a huge layout, it's a cheap lasts for 4 months. So, and that's with a lot of natural and organic products, they actually use the smallest amounts and they last for a long time. So it's kind of trying to find the balance between paying months every week or paying month once and but I mean it's real, and also if you're using organic and natural products, the ingredients are quite expensive. As a small business, we keep our prices down as low as possible.
I agree, and I'm glad that a lot of the refill shops that we work with, I mentioned this about 300 of them, they're so savvy at doing price comparison, and they've got to be very also very self-sufficient with social media, because most of them can't pay some influencer to. So I heard POSY, you are the brains behind the social media, aren't you? So you do this price comparison thing, and if you look carefully, and I know this by working in farmers markets for years before, but that's years it is now. And we used to do price comparisons, like to like, all these products locally made, often organic tomatoes and so on and so forth. And the difference in price at the total will be a pound. You think, how could this fresh organic product in the farmers market where we are, that shopping list, we would do it every month. The organizer of the market would do a shopping list, throw lentils, cucumber, all sorts of things there, just to compare. And it came out, the market came out more expensive, between 45p more to £2 more. And when we started doing that market came, we chopped a lot, because people realize that they are being ripped off by supermarkets. So that's one problem with pricing and ethical products. And the other is also the impression that buying ethical means you have to be wealthy or higher, not necessarily. There are many things that are affordable out there. And it's a shame, taking into account that things last longer if they are the quality.
So I was just going to add one little thing on the end there, that actually, when we do have businesses working to refill, reuse model, instead of the single use throw away, they are saving money, and that's cost that they can pass on to their customers. And we've seen that quite a lot with champions, where they do sort of stop using the single use products, can then pass those costs on.
Hello, I'm Caroline from Waste Loss in Nottingham, and in fact, Rina, you are one of our favourite suppliers. We are one of those refill shops. And something I just wanted to add to what you were talking about is there's another aspect for people who are really short of money, is there's no waste. They can buy exactly what they need. So we often get people coming into the shop who just buy a small quantity of something because that's what they can afford. So there's another aspect, and they actually say, we're getting rid of waste, we're not having to throw away food or toiletries or whatever.
Just to kind of add on to that conversation before I ask my next question, I think a really big barrier for a lot of people buying these new products is they're not quite sure, is it going to work? Is it going to be worth the money? That sort of thing. So what we found, not just at the uni, but just like in my own personal life, really, like buying these things for people as gifts can be a really good way to like show people or give them the opportunity to try these products when they wouldn't have bought them themselves. And you often find like once you've tried it, people love them because they're great products, right? So I just think for our own personal lives, and also I don't know if you can incorporate that into a business model or your marketing of your products, but yeah, encouraging people to buy them for people as gifts. I think this is quite a good way to introduce people. And my second question was for Emma. So I'm a really big supporter of service against sewage being Bournemouth, and I'm UC for Merth. I'm very interested about this topic. And I just think that that model for a company, like service against sewage, it's a direct demonstration of people protect what they love. And I think we need more of these types of organisations. So, in my job, for example, I have to focus on waste, travel, food. I'm trying to do like everything, and I think we need more people like maybe like people focusing on one thing, or not just like a topic, and like really going like deep with that rather than everyone trying to do everything. And I suppose my question is, if you know the answer, how did the service against sewage kind of come about, and how can we try and create more organisations like this based on what they love?
Yeah, that's really good, a good point. I'll try and answer it as best I can. But yeah, Sewage Against Sewage started in the 1990s, and it started in Southampton called Paul. It's very small, a small charity just run by a group of Cornish surfers. And it scaled quite big. So now we're still in Agnes, we're very much down to our roots. We have 50 staff and work now on a national scale. And actually, our strategy has changed massively. So we used to just focus on sewage, and then very quickly realised that there is a big overlap between sewage water quality with plastics, which is also a water quality issue. So naturally then that campaign led into plastic pollution, and especially then when we had the Blue Planet effects in 2017, plastic pollution was suddenly catapulted into the public agenda, and it became very aware that this was something that surfers needed to be acting on as well. There were so many crossovers with plastics and sewage, from microplastics and the increase in antibiotic resistant bacteria, and you've also got like toiletry waste that comes in from sewage outflows as well, and sewage is not filtered for microplastics either, so the overlaps are crazy. So that's why I think historically we've campaigned on plastics. But then we did sort of delve into other things such as ocean protection. We have some projects around seagrass, and I think the key with that is partnerships. So it's partnering where your focus maybe isn't, but someone else's focus is partnering and linking up in coalitions and working in a unified, holistic way, and not doing everything. So over the years we have really focused in on sewage and plastics. But I think partnership is key, and I think the fact that we're all here today shows that partnership is key, collaboration is key. Reaching out to other organisations that are in other spaces is really key. I'm not sure if that's answered your whole question, so apologies, but yeah, definitely.
Keith, do you want to say anything on behalf of?
Yeah, I own a plastic free shop of mine in Somerset, which I started off after doing a beach clean one day and realised how much plastic there was on the beach, so I wanted to make a difference. And I started off a small shop, and last October I moved into a large premises on High Street. It's really taken off. I'm breaking my targets every month. I get people come in and wander around, so I'm not really into all this, but by the time they go out, they're just really pleased what there is available. It's open their eyes, and they all come back to their gift shopping and stuff now. We took other people, and sometimes I'm really pleased the difference I make on high streets, and I'm trying to encourage a lot more of it as well. Thank you.
Sure, we'll take one more and then, yeah.
Sorry, we super quick. I'd quite like to just ask Rina about this. In the last sort of 5 years, I've seen 3 package-free shops close. One was down in Portsmouth, and then 2 up in Northamptonshire, where I'm currently living. I know it's slightly different from the person who said the last question, which was super helpful. I just wondered if you had a message of hope for the future. It's just quite upsetting to see. Really, I know there's obviously a problem with costs involved and things like that for big supermarkets. Not to just like buy things in bulk; it becomes much cheaper. Just a message of hope for the future about shops like this, plastic-free supermarkets and the like. That'd be great. Thanks.
Thank you. Wow. Right, there's a big one, but I can see in my eyes, I see somebody, hope is just behind there. Plastic, kiss against plastic. Well, I can say that, yes, kiss against plastic, hope is right here, but if I were to talk about where SESI is, inspired by, is the collective results. For example, since 2018 until now, SESI has managed to help the UK refill 5,000 pieces of packaging. Let's not forget, packaging is not just plastic. And cardboard and glass does use a lot of energy and water and much more than we don't talk about about that, but that's just we need to think about those too. So that's we stick dearly with that figure, over 5 million pieces of packaging that we all the retail shops have managed to collectively help people reuse. And just imagine that each one of those bottles, it can live up to, if it is a plastic bottle, up to 100 years. So that you just have to think of it exponentially, and you realize we are making a massive impact as it is. It's great that we have become aware, we push, we campaign, we lobby, we do all these things, and the small businesses in the high street are fighting to do the right thing, and we need to support them. And I think the hope is what you said, and action. Hope is action, and we are all taking action. That gives me a lot of hope. I can support, no matter the background of people, whether they're young, older, middle-aged, doesn't matter. I mean, the very fact that you guys organize this event, and this is not going to stop, because this is in our very DNA to survive. And to survive, we need to cooperate. And I know a lot is said about the selfish thing, but we are also cooperative beings. And I think if we start from that understanding, we do have a lot to achieve together. But I think it's not, if we can, it's important not to look at things, oh, I am against this, but more, what am I pro? What can I pro my life? Things supposed to against. That's all I say.
Amazing, thank you. And yeah, absolutely. I'm amazed as well. Like that, there is still, even though some refill shops are closed, like there is still a lot of people going into like plastic free. These values are still there. From years over the last few years. So that I'm kind of like, I think I believe in what you say as well, that once these values are embedded, people just want to keep supporting that. And that's kind of what we need. We need to kind of put that message out there to say, we need to keep supporting these local independent businesses and not be priced out by supermarkets and this kind of stuff. But I admire your determination, to keep going, to keep ensuring the prices are as low, as competitive and low as possible for consumers. So thank you for what you're doing, and I really hope the business keeps going, because it's what we need, and hopefully we can inspire lots of other people to kind of to do that. And so Yeah, so we've reached 1 o'clock, so I want to say a huge thank you to these amazing speakers. So thank you to